The transport ship hummed as it approached the massive structure floating in deep space. Ambassador Ki-hyun pressed his hand against the cold window and stared at the Vrenix diplomatic station. It looked like a metal flower with dozens of petals spreading out into the darkness. Each petal held different species from across the galaxy. This was where newcomers came to prove they belonged in the wider universe. Ki-hyun turned away from the window and looked at his small team. Dr. Nari sat in the corner, reading through files on her datapad. Her daughter Hana sat beside her, swinging her legs and humming a tune. The girl was only 8 years old. She should have been back on Earth in school, but the emergency evacuation of the research colony left them no choice. Hana had to come along. Are you nervous? Nari asked without looking up from her screen. Ki-hyun smiled. A little. First contact with a new species is always tricky. The Vrenix have been in space for thousands of years. We are still new to all this. They think we are weak, Nari said quietly. I read their initial reports about humans. They called us soft-skinned children playing with technology we barely understand. Ki-hyun nodded. He had read the same reports. The Vrenix were warriors. They conquered planets by breeding the perfect predators and letting them loose on their enemies. They respected strength above all else. Humans, with their diplomacy and cooperation, seemed weak to them. The ship docked with a gentle thud. Ki-hyun straightened his formal jacket and picked up his briefcase. Nari closed her datapad and took Hana's hand. The three of them walked down the ramp into the station. The air felt heavy and warm. Ki-hyun could smell something strange, like metal and old leather mixed together. The walls were dark red, almost like dried blood. Lights flickered in patterns that hurt his eyes if he looked too long. A tall figure waited for them at the end of the corridor. Thexfor stood almost 3 meters tall. His scales were deep purple and green, catching the light when he moved. His eyes were yellow with thin black slits for pupils. He wore armor decorated with bones and claws from creatures Ki-hyun could not identify. Ambassador Ki-hyun, Thexfor said. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. Welcome to the Vrenix station. I am Thexfor, speaker for the Vrenix Empire. Ki-hyun bowed slightly. Thank you for receiving us. This is Dr. Nari, our chief xenobiologist, and her daughter Hana. Thexvor's eyes moved to Hana. The child stared back at him without fear, her eyes wide with curiosity. Thexfor made a sound that might have been laughter. You bring a hatchling to a diplomatic meeting? How very human. It could not be helped, Ki-hyun said calmly. We hope you understand. Thexfor turned and began walking. Follow me. I will show you why the Vrenix rule over 100 worlds, while your species still struggles to maintain colonies in your own star system. They walked through corridor after corridor. Ki-hyun saw other aliens through windows and doorways. Some looked like insects with too many legs. Others seemed to be made of living crystal. A few appeared almost plant-like, with leaves growing from their heads. None of them looked human. Thexfor led them to a massive circular room. The ceiling stretched up so high that Ki-hyun could not see the top. The walls were lined with cages and containment fields. Inside each one, some kind of creature paced or slept or watched them with hungry eyes. This is our pride, Thexfor announced. 10,000 years of genetic mastery. We take dangerous predators and make them perfect. Then we make them better. Each creature here could destroy an army. Each one serves the Vrenix Empire. Hana let go of her mother's hand and walked closer to one of the containment fields. Inside, a creature that looked like a cross between a wolf and a lizard snarled at her. She smiled and waved at it. Hana, stay close, Nari called out nervously. Thexfor watched the child with amusement. Your young have no sense of danger. That is why soft species like yours need protection. You lack the warrior spirit. Ki-hyun bit back an angry response. Getting emotional would not help their case. He needed to stay calm and professional. But let me show you our greatest achievement, Thexfor continued. He walked to the center of the room where a large crystalline field glowed with blue light. This is a shadestalker, the perfect predator, silent, deadly, intelligent, and it possesses a gift that makes it truly unstoppable. Ki-hyun stepped closer and his blood went cold. Inside the containment field sat a creature like nothing he had ever seen. It was enormous, at least 6 meters long. Its body was covered in scales so black they seemed to absorb light. Multiple eyes dotted its head, each one watching in a different direction. Its mouth was closed, but Ki-hyun could see teeth as long as his forearm pressing against its lips. What gift? Nari asked, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. It projects fear. Thexvor said proudly, a psychic ability bred into its genetic code over countless generations. Any creature that comes near it feels terror so complete that they cannot move, cannot think, cannot fight. They simply stand and wait to die. Ki-hyun felt a chill run down his spine. Even through the containment field, he could sense something wrong about the creature. His instincts screamed at him to run. You control this thing? He asked. Control is the wrong word, Thexvor said. I have tamed it. For 40 years I have worked with this shade stalker. It knows me. It trusts me. It is the first of its kind to ever bond with a Vrenix master. The creature's eyes suddenly shifted, focusing on something. Ki-hyun followed its gaze and felt his heart stop. Hana had wandered away from her mother again. She stood right in front of the containment field, her small face pressed close to the blue light. She was staring at the shade stalker with wonder, not fear. Hana, get back here right now, Nari said sharply, rushing forward. But Hana did not move. She tilted her head and studied the massive predator. Then she did something that made everyone in the room freeze. She reached out her small hand toward the containment field and whispered loud enough for them all to hear. It's okay. You don't have to be scared anymore. The shade stalker's multiple eyes locked onto the child. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the creature opened its mouth and released a sound that Ki-hyun would never forget. It was not a roar. It was not a growl. It was a scream of pure, absolute terror. The screaming did not stop. The shade stalker thrashed inside its containment field, slamming its massive body against the blue walls of energy. Its multiple eyes were wide with panic. Its claws scraped against the floor, leaving deep gouges in the metal. The sound it made was high and piercing, like 1,000 voices crying out at once. Hana pulled her hand back, confused. She had not expected this reaction. She looked at her mother with worried eyes. I didn't mean to scare it. Nari grabbed her daughter and pulled her away from the field. Her hand shook as she held Hana close. Ki-hyun moved to stand in front of them both, though he had no idea what he could do against a creature like that if it escaped. Thexvor stood frozen, his mouth open in shock. He stared at his prized shade stalker as it continued to panic. This is impossible, he whispered. Impossible. Nothing scares a shade stalker. They are fear made flesh. They are the hunters, not the hunted. What did she do? Ki-hyun demanded. What is happening? Thexvor did not answer. He was too focused on his creature. He pressed buttons on a control panel near the containment field. Sleep commands. Not working. Calming frequencies. Not working. Neural dampeners. Nothing is working. Around the room, other creatures began to react. The wolf lizard Hana had waved at earlier threw itself against its cage bars. A bird-like predator with metal feathers screeched and beat its wings. Something that looked like a mass of tentacles tried to squeeze through the gaps in its prison. Every single war beast in the chamber was going wild. Alarms started blaring. Red lights flashed along the walls. A robotic voice spoke in a language Ki-hyun did not understand, but the tone was clear. This was an emergency. Other Vrenix rushed into the room. They wore heavy armor and carried weapons that crackled with energy. They surrounded the containment fields, ready to fight if anything escaped. One of them, a female with bright orange scales, shouted at Thexvor. What happened? Why are they all in distress? Thexvor pointed a shaking claw at Hana, the human child. She approached the shade stalker and it panicked. The female Vrenix looked at Hana like she was seeing a ghost. A child made the shade stalker afraid? That makes no sense. Check her for weapons. Hidden technology. Something that produces fear frequencies. Nari stepped forward, still holding Hana. She has nothing. She is just a child. She was only trying to be kind to your creature. Kind? Thexvor snarled. What kind of kindness causes this? Ki-hyun felt a headache building behind his eyes. This was supposed to be a simple diplomatic meeting. Now they were in the middle of some kind of crisis he did not understand. He needed to calm the situation down before it got worse. Let us all take a breath, he said in his most diplomatic voice. Dr. Nari, please take Hana to the waiting area. Thexvor, we need to understand what happened here. Perhaps there is a scientific explanation. Nari nodded gratefully and carried Hana toward the door. The little girl looked back at the shade stalker with sad eyes. I'm sorry, she called out. I didn't mean to hurt you. The creature's screaming quieted slightly when Hana moved further away. By the time Nari and her daughter left the room, the shade stalker had stopped thrashing. It curled up in the far corner of its containment field, shaking. Its eyes never stopped watching the door where Hana had disappeared. The other creatures slowly calmed down as well. The wolf lizard stopped slamming against its cage. The metal bird stopped screeching. Within minutes, the room was quiet again except for the alarm, which someone finally turned off. Thexvor stared at his shadestalker with something that looked like grief. 40 years, he said quietly. 40 years of bonding and training. I thought I had finally reached it, made it trust me, but in one moment that human child undid everything. She did not mean to, Ki-hyun said. Please believe that. Hana loves animals. All animals. She sees the good in every living thing. It is just who she is. Love. Thexvor repeated the word like it tasted bitter. What does love matter to a predator bred for war? The orange-scaled female approached them. She had put away her weapon. I am Velmora, head of biological security. Ambassador, with your permission, I would like to scan your team. Especially the child. We need to understand what happened here. Ki-hyun wanted to refuse. He wanted to take his people and leave this station immediately, but he knew that would destroy any chance of building a relationship with the Vreniks. Humanity needed allies in this dangerous galaxy. Running away now would label humans as cowards or worse. You may scan us, he agreed, but I want Dr. Nari present. She is a scientist. She will understand your equipment and can verify that you are not trying to harm us. Velmora nodded. That is acceptable. Follow me to the medical bay. They found Nari and Hana in a small waiting room. The child was drawing on a data pad, creating pictures of the creatures she had seen. Nari sat beside her, one arm wrapped protectively around her daughter's shoulders. They want to run some scans, Ki-hyun explained, to figure out what happened. Is that all right? Nari looked at Hana, then at the Vreniks surrounding them. She did not have much choice. All right, but I stay with her the entire time. The medical bay was clean and white, very different from the dark corridors outside. Strange machines lined the walls. Velmora gestured for Hana to sit on an examination table. The girl climbed up without fear, swinging her legs again. This will not hurt, Velmora promised. She activated several devices that floated around Hana, humming softly. Light scanned up and down the child's body. Numbers and graphs appeared on nearby screens. Nari watched everything carefully, her eyes tracking each piece of data. Ki-hyun saw her face change from cautious to confused to shocked. What is it? He asked. What do you see? Nari pointed at one of the screens. Neural activity. Hana's brain is producing a frequency I have never seen before. It is very faint, but it is there. A kind of psychic signature, maybe? Velmora's eyes widened. She adjusted the scanners to focus on the frequency Nari had spotted. The numbers jumped higher. This frequency, she said slowly. It operates in the same range as fear responses. But it is not fear. It is something else. Something that triggers fear in other creatures. Thexvor had followed them to the medical bay. He pushed forward to see the screens. You mean the human child is a predator? She projects fear like the Shadestalker? No, Nari said, her mind racing through possibilities. Not exactly. It is more like a warning. A signal that says I am dangerous, stay away. Ki-hyun felt ice in his stomach. You are saying my species naturally scares other species? That we are predators? Nari looked at her daughter, then at Ki-hyun. Her voice was soft when she spoke. Ambassador, where do you think humans came from? What kind of planet breeds creatures that can look at a Shadestalker and feel nothing but kindness? The answer hung in the air, unspoken but understood by everyone in the room. Earth was not a gentle place. News of the incident spread through the station like fire. Within hours, every species with a representative on the Vreniks diplomatic station had heard the story. A human child made the legendary Shadestalker scream in terror. The whispers grew into conversations. The conversations grew into emergency meetings. Ki-hyun sat in a conference room surrounded by aliens of every shape and size. Some had too many eyes. Others had no eyes at all. A few floated in tanks of liquid. One looked like a moving pile of rocks. They all wanted answers about the same thing. What were humans really? Thexvor stood at the front of the room. His proud bearing from yesterday was gone. He looked tired and angry. The Shadestalker remains in distress, he reported. It refuses food. It watches the door constantly. When we brought the human child scent near its containment field, it tried to break through the walls. Something about humans triggers a response we have never seen before. An insect-like delegate clicked its mandibles. Perhaps humans possess a weapon. A device that creates fear. We scanned them thoroughly, Velmora replied. No weapons. No technology. The frequency comes from the child herself. From her brain. A crystalline being chimed in with a voice like bells. Then humans are psychic? They have mental powers? Nari shook her head. She had been given permission to speak at the meeting. Not psychic in the way you mean. The frequency is not controlled. Hana does not know she is producing it. It appears to be automatic, biological, evolutionary, added another voice. A squid-like creature floated forward in its mobility tank. I am Scholar Byung-ho of the Deepwater Collective. We have studied humanity since their first radio signals reached our sensors. May I present our findings? Ki-hyun felt his stomach twist. Humanity had been studied? For how long? What had they found? He nodded slowly. Please share what you know. Scholar Byung-ho activated a holographic display. An image of Earth appeared, rotating slowly. It looked beautiful. Blue oceans, green and brown landmasses, white clouds drifting across the surface. Earth, the scholar said. At first glance, a paradise world. But look closer. The image zoomed in. The atmosphere contains 21% oxygen. This is dangerously high. On most worlds, such oxygen levels would cause constant fires. Plant life would burn uncontrollably. The image changed to show forests. Earth's plants have evolved to survive this. They grow quickly and die quickly. A constant cycle of destruction and rebirth. And the animals that live in these forests must breathe this corrosive air every moment of their lives. Another image appeared. This one showed Earth's weather. Massive storms swirled across the oceans. Hurricanes that could destroy cities. Tornadoes that ripped through the land. Lightning that struck thousands of times per second. Earth's weather is catastrophic by galactic standards, the scholar continued. Humans live in a world where the sky itself is dangerous, where water falls from above with enough force to hurt, where wind can tear buildings apart. Ki-hyun wanted to interrupt to explain that humans had built shelters and technology to deal with these things, but the scholar was not finished. The next image made several delegates gasp. It showed a predator, a large cat with enormous teeth. Its claws looked like knives. Its eyes held cold intelligence. This is a saber-toothed tiger, one of many mega-predators that once hunted on Earth. Humans evolved alongside creatures like this. They were prey animals, weak, slow, without claws or fangs or armor. But we survived, Ki-hyun said quietly. Yes, the scholar agreed. You survived. But how? Another image appeared. This one showed early humans. They looked small and fragile compared to the animals around them. You survived through cooperation, through intelligence, through persistence. You hunted in packs. You made tools. You learned to chase prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. You became endurance predators. The room fell silent. The term endurance predator was known to every species present. It meant a hunter that never stopped, never gave up, never let prey escape. It was one of the most terrifying hunting strategies in nature. Humans chased animals until they died from running, asked a delegate with fur and forearms. That is monstrous, Scholar Byung-ho nodded, but effective, and necessary on a death world like Earth. You see, Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. Only the most aggressive, adaptable life survives there. 99% of all species that ever lived on Earth went extinct. Humans are descended from the survivors. Nari stood up. This explains the frequency Hana produces. It is a defense mechanism. Young humans in prehistory were vulnerable. They could not run fast or fight well, so they evolved a way to warn predators away. A psychic signature that says, I am from a death world. I am dangerous. Leave me alone. But the child showed kindness to the Shadestalker. Thexvor protested. She tried to comfort it. How can a predator show empathy? That is the terrifying part, another voice spoke up. This one belonged to an elderly alien that looked like a walking tree. Predators that work alone are predictable. Predators that work in packs and care for each other, that show empathy and cooperation, they are unstoppable. Ki-hyun felt all eyes turned to him. He stood slowly, choosing his words carefully. Yes, Earth is a dangerous world. Yes, humans evolved to survive terrible conditions, but we also evolved something else. We learned to work together not just in small groups, but in massive societies. We learned to turn enemies into friends. We learned that cooperation was stronger than conquest. Why? Thexvor demanded. Why would apex predators choose peace? Because we got too good at war, Ki-hyun said simply. We created weapons that could destroy our entire planet. We nearly wiped ourselves out several times. We learned that our greatest enemy was not the saber-toothed tigers or the storms or the other predators. Our greatest enemy was ourselves. So we changed. We chose to be better. The room erupted in noise. Dozens of aliens talking at once. Some were frightened. Some were impressed. Some were angry. Ki-hyun let them talk. He understood their fear. Humanity was not what anyone expected. Bellamora raised her hand for silence. There is another matter we must discuss. If human children produce this fear frequency, what about human adults? We scanned Ambassador Ki-hyun and Dr. Nari as well. They also produce the frequency, but much weaker. It fades as humans age. Why would it fade? Someone asked. Nari answered. Because adult humans developed other defenses, tools, weapons, society. Children still needed the biological warning because they were vulnerable. As we grow up, we rely more on learned behaviors than instinct. Scholar Byung-ho brought up one final image. It showed humanity's expansion into space, their colonies, their ships, their technology. In just 200 years, humans went from first flight to interstellar travel. They did this while fighting wars among themselves, while dealing with disasters and diseases, while learning to work with artificial intelligence and genetic engineering. They are the fastest developing species we have ever recorded. Because we had to be, Ki-hyun said. Our world taught us to adapt or die, so we adapted. The conference room fell silent again. Everyone was thinking the same thing. Humanity was not weak. They were Death World survivors wearing the mask of diplomacy. And they had just arrived on the galactic stage. The emergency council session lasted for 3 full days. Representatives from 40 different species argued about what humanity meant for the galaxy. Some wanted to welcome humans as valuable allies. Others wanted to quarantine Earth and prevent humans from spreading further into space. A few even suggested more extreme measures. Ki-hyun barely slept. He spent his time answering questions, providing data about Earth, and trying to convince the council that humans were not a threat. Nari worked alongside him, presenting scientific evidence about human biology and psychology. Hana stayed in their quarters drawing pictures and playing games, unaware that her innocent gesture had changed everything. On the morning of the 4th day, Ki-hyun was summoned to a private meeting. He found himself in a small room with 5 of the most powerful individuals in the known galaxy. Thexvor was there, representing the Vrenix Empire. Scholar Byung-ho floated in his tank for the Deepwater Collective. A tall, elegant being named Do-yun spoke for the Stellar Assembly, a coalition of peaceful trading worlds. An ancient creature, called Elder Root, represented the oldest civilizations. And finally, a mechanical intelligence known as Tame served as the neutral arbiter of galactic law. Ambassador Ki-hyun, Tame spoke with a voice that sounded like pure mathematics. We have reviewed all available data on humanity. We have studied your history, your biology, your culture, and your technology. We must now make a decision about your species' place in the galaxy. Ki-hyun sat down, trying to keep his hands from shaking. I understand. Elder Root leaned forward, its bark-like skin creaking. You must understand our concern, young human. In the past 10,000 years, we have encountered 17 species from Death Worlds. 12 of them became conquerors. They used their natural advantages to dominate peaceful species. 3 more destroyed themselves in nuclear wars before achieving space travel. Only 2 managed to develop into peaceful civilizations, and both required centuries of guidance from older species. Humanity achieved space travel alone, Do-yun added. His voice was melodic and sad. No one taught you. No one guided you. You climbed from your violent world into the stars by yourselves. This makes you unpredictable. We are not conquerors, Ki-hyun insisted. Yes, we have a violent history. Yes, we evolved on a dangerous world. But we chose peace. We built the United Earth government specifically to prevent wars. We have laws against weapons of mass destruction. We teach our children cooperation and empathy. You teach your children empathy, Thexvor said slowly. Yet your child broke my shadestalker with kindness. Do you see the irony? Your species is so dangerous that even your compassion is a weapon. Ki-hyun felt anger rising in his chest. That is not fair. Hana did not know what would happen. She saw a lonely creature and wanted to help it. That is what we teach our children, to see suffering and respond with kindness. How is that wrong? It is not wrong, Scholar Byung-ho said gently. It is terrifying. Ambassador, do you know what the Vreniks fear most? They fear creatures that can break their war beasts. Do you know what the Stellar Assembly fears most? They fear predators that can disguise themselves as friends. And do you know what the ancient civilizations fear most? They fear young species that develop too quickly, before they have the wisdom to use their power responsibly. Humanity represents all three fears, Elder Root concluded. You are natural predators. You are naturally cooperative and empathetic. And you are developing at an unprecedented rate. In another 100 years, you will have technology that rivals our own. In 200 years, you could surpass us. Ki-hyun closed his eyes. He understood now. The galaxy was not afraid of human violence. They were afraid of human potential. They were afraid that humanity would grow too strong too fast. So what happens now? He asked. Do you quarantine us? Force us to stop exploring space? Destroy our colonies? Taman's mechanical voice held something that might have been sympathy. We could do those things. Some in the council have suggested them. But such actions would likely turn humanity into exactly what we fear. If we attack you or imprison you, you will fight back. Your history shows that humans become most dangerous when threatened. Then what? Ki-hyun asked. We offer you a choice, Doyeon said. Join the Galactic Council as full members. Accept guidance from older species. Share your technology and knowledge with us, and we will share ours with you. Agree to limits on military expansion and weapon development. In exchange, we offer you protection, trade agreements, and a voice in galactic affairs. And if we refuse? Ki-hyun asked, though he already knew the answer. Then we will be forced to treat humanity as a potential threat, Elder Root said sadly. Trade restrictions, travel limitations, isolation. It would not be what we want, but we must protect the galaxy. Ki-hyun looked at each of them in turn. He saw genuine concern in their faces, not hatred or cruelty. They were not trying to punish humanity. They were trying to survive what humanity might become. I cannot make this decision alone, he said. I need to speak with my government. This is too important. We understand, Tame said. You have 1 Earth month to decide. Use this time wisely. The meeting ended. Ki-hyun walked back to his quarters, his mind spinning with thoughts. He found Nari there, teaching Hana about different alien species. The girl listened with fascination, asking questions about each one. Mama, can we visit the Deepwater Collective someday? Hana asked. I want to see the ocean cities Scholar Byung-ho talks about. Maybe someday, Nari said softly. She looked at Ki-hyun and read the worry in his face. Hana, why don't you go draw some pictures of the ocean cities? Your imagination will be better than any photograph. Hana nodded and ran to her room. Once she was gone, Nari turned to Ki-hyun. What happened? He told her everything. The Council's fears, the choice they offered, the deadline hanging over humanity's future. When he finished, Nari sat in silence for a long moment. They are right to be afraid, she finally said. Not because we are evil, but because we are powerful and young. It is like giving a child a loaded gun. The child does not mean harm, but accidents happen. So we accept their offer? Ki-hyun asked. We agree to limits and restrictions? What is the alternative? Nari countered. We refuse and become isolated? We fight and prove their fears correct? No, Ki-hyun, we take the offer. We join the council. We learn from species that have been in space for millennia. We prove that humans can be trusted. What about our freedom? Ki-hyun asked. Our independence? Nari smiled sadly. We are still free. We just choose to use that freedom wisely. Besides, the restrictions they suggest are things we should want anyway. Limits on weapons development? We already have those. Guidance from older species? We need that. Humanity is like a teenager who thinks they know everything. Sometimes teenagers need parents to keep them from making terrible mistakes. Ki-hyun laughed despite himself. When did you become so wise? I have an 8-year-old daughter, Nari replied. You learn wisdom quickly when you are responsible for a child. She paused. That is what this is really about, is not it? The galaxy sees humanity as a child. Powerful, dangerous, but still a child. They want to guide us until we grow up. And you think we should let them? I think we should learn from them, Nari corrected. There is a difference. We keep our identity, our culture, our independence. But we also learn from those who came before us. We avoid their mistakes. We benefit from their knowledge. That is not weakness. That is intelligence. Ki-hyun nodded slowly. She was right. Humanity did not have to prove their strength by standing alone. They could prove their wisdom by choosing cooperation. That was the real test. Could humans be strong enough to accept help? 3 weeks later, Ki-hyun stood before the full Galactic Council. Behind him, images of Earth played on massive screens, cities and forests, oceans and mountains, billions of humans going about their daily lives, unaware that their future was being decided light years away. The United Earth government has reviewed your offer, Ki-hyun announced. His voice was steady and clear. We accept membership in the Galactic Council. We agree to reasonable limits on military expansion. We welcome guidance from elder species. We offer our knowledge and resources to the galactic community. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some delegates cheered. Others argued. A few remained silent, still unsure about humanity. But the decision was made. Humanity would join the galaxy not as conquerors or victims, but as junior partners learning from those who came before. After the formal vote, Ki-hyun found himself surrounded by delegates wanting to discuss trade agreements and cultural exchanges. It was overwhelming but exciting. Humanity had a future among the stars, but there was one more thing Ki-hyun needed to do before leaving the station. He found Thexvor standing alone in the creature chamber, staring at the Shadestalker's containment field. The great predator was still curled in the corner watching the door. It has not eaten in 3 weeks, Thexvor said without turning around. The medical team says it is dying. Not from disease or injury, but from something broken in its mind. That human child destroyed my life's work in one moment of kindness. I am sorry, Ki-hyun said sincerely. Truly, Hana did not mean to cause harm. I know, Thexvor replied. That is what makes it worse. She genuinely wanted to help. She saw my perfect killing machine and felt compassion for it. What kind of species looks at a Shadestalker and sees something worth saving? The same species that looked at ourselves and decided we were worth saving, Ki-hyun said. We could have destroyed ourselves a dozen times over. We had the weapons. We had the reasons. But we chose differently. We chose to believe that even the most damaged, violent, dangerous creatures could become something better. Thexvor finally turned to face him. You think the Shadestalker can be saved? I think Hana should be allowed to try, Ki-hyun said. If you permit it. Thexvor was quiet for a long time. Why would I allow the creature that broke my beast to come near it again? Because nothing else has worked, Ki-hyun replied. And because I saw something in your eyes just now. You do not want it to die. You care about it. Maybe not as a weapon anymore, but as a living being. Hana sees that same thing. Let her help. After a moment, Thexvor nodded slowly. Bring the child. But I will be there. If anything goes wrong, I will end this immediately. Ki-hyun found Hana and Nari in the gardens, a beautiful space filled with plants from 100 different worlds. Hana was trying to identify each one, writing their names in her notebook. Hana, Ki-hyun said gently, would you like to see the Shadestalker again? The girl's eyes lit up. Really, can I? I have been worried about it. Nari looked concerned. Ki-hyun, are you sure this is safe? No, he admitted. But I think it is important. Hana showed the galaxy that humans carry a warning signal from our death world past. Maybe she can also show them what else humans carry. Hope, compassion, the ability to heal instead of harm. They returned to the creature chamber. Thexvor, Velmora, and several guards waited there. The Shadestalker lifted its head when they entered. Its eyes fixed on Hana immediately. Remember, Thexvor said. Slowly, carefully. If it shows any sign of aggression, you run. Hana nodded seriously. She understood this was important. She walked toward the containment field, but this time she was different. She moved slowly. She breathed deeply. She did something her mother had taught her for calming her anxiety before school tests. As Hana calmed herself, the frequency she naturally produced weakened. The warning signal that said "I am from a death world" faded to almost nothing. She became just a small child approaching a scared animal. The Shadestalker's reaction changed. It did not scream. It did not thrash. It watched with wary curiosity. "Hello," Hana said softly. "I am sorry I scared you before. I did not know I was doing that. I did not know I made a sound that hurt you." The creature tilted its head. Its multiple eyes blinked in sequence. "You must be very lonely," Hana continued. "Living in this box, being afraid all the time. I get scared too sometimes. Of loud noises. Of the dark. Of being away from my mama." She glanced back at Nari, who watched with tears in her eyes. "But my mama taught me something. She said fear is just a feeling. It cannot actually hurt you. The things you are afraid of might hurt you, but the fear itself is just your brain trying to keep you safe." Hana sat down cross-legged in front of the containment field. "I am not going to hurt you. I know you do not believe me yet. That is okay. Trust takes time. But I will sit here with you for a while, so you are not alone." For several minutes, nothing happened. Hana sat quietly. The Shadestalker watched her. The adults barely breathed, afraid to break the moment. Then, slowly, the Shadestalker uncurled. It moved forward, one careful step at a time. When it reached the edge of the containment field, it lowered its massive head until one of its eyes was level with Hana. The girl smiled. "There you are. It is nice to really see you. You are actually very beautiful." Like a living shadow, the Shadestalker made a sound, not a scream this time. A low, rumbling hum that might have been curiosity, or might have been the beginning of trust. "This is impossible," Velmora whispered. "Shadestalkers do not bond with anyone except their Vrenix handlers. And even that takes decades." "She is not trying to control it," Thexvor said slowly. Understanding dawned in his eyes. "She is not trying to tame it or train it or dominate it. She is just being with it." "Offering companionship," Nari nodded. "That is what humans do. We domesticated wolves by offering friendship, not force. We brought them into our homes and our hearts. Over thousands of years, they became dogs. Our best friends. You think the Shadestalker could become like a dog?" Velmora asked incredulously. "No," Nari said. "It will always be a Shadestalker, powerful, dangerous, but maybe it does not have to be lonely. Maybe it does not have to only know fear and violence. Maybe it can learn what my daughter is teaching it right now, that there are beings in the universe who will sit with you simply because you exist. Not because you are useful, not because you are powerful, just because you deserve companionship." They stayed there for 2 hours. Hana talked to the Shadestalker about Earth, about oceans and rain, about her school friends and her favorite foods, about books she had read and games she liked to play. The creature listened to every word, its eyes never leaving her face. When it was finally time to leave, Hana stood up. "I have to go now, but I will come back tomorrow if you want. We can talk more." The Shadestalker made that low humming sound again. It sounded like agreement. As they walked out, Thexvor spoke quietly to Kihyun. "I have been with that creature for 40 years. I thought I understood it. I thought I had mastered it. But your daughter showed me I understood nothing. I was so focused on making it obey that I never thought about making it happy. You can change that now," Kihyun said. "It is not too late." Word spread quickly through the station. The human child had tamed the Shadestalker, not through force or fear, but through simple kindness. Delegates who had been unsure about humanity started to understand. Yes, humans were from a death world. Yes, they carried the marks of apex predators. But they also carried something else. Something the galaxy desperately needed. They carried the ability to look at the most dangerous, damaged, violent beings and see someone worth saving. They carried hope that even the darkest creatures could find light. They carried the radical belief that compassion was stronger than conquest. On Hana's last day at the station, dozens of species came to say goodbye. They brought gifts and well wishes. They asked when humanity would send diplomats to their worlds. A few even asked if there were more humans like Hana who might help with their own troubled creatures. As their ship prepared to leave, Hana pressed her face to the window one last time. Down below in the creature chamber, the Shade Stalker watched the sky. Tex4 stood beside it, one hand resting gently on its scales. The creature was eating again. It was healing. "Do you think we will come back?" Hana asked her mother. "I know we will," Nari replied. "The galaxy needs humans, not as warriors or conquerors, as friends, as healers, as the species that survived the impossible and chose kindness anyway." Ki-hyun smiled as Earth appeared in the distance. Humanity's homeworld, a blue marble spinning in the darkness, a death world that had taught its children to be both strong and gentle. Both fierce and compassionate, the galaxy would never be the same. And perhaps that was exactly what it needed.